Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back to the 105th episode of UNC Hoops Talk podcast. Back from another busy week in college basketball. A lot of top 10 teams losing. A lot of mix-up in the AP poll and any of the polls. Plenty of mix-up going on. I believe I saw Tar Heels are back up to number 9, so back in the top 10 at least. But I want to first just thank everybody for watching, listening, taking in the podcast, and joining my mission to unite Tar Heel Nation and to talk Tar Heels and with any other Tar Heel fans or even non-fans for that matter. I'm just glad that you're listening, supporting the podcast, and I hope that you will share it out with anybody else that you think would appreciate it and enjoy it. Yeah, let's jump in. A couple of good wins for the Tar Heels this week. Well, they're both wins. I don't know. Good wins. The first one against Pittsburgh ended up only being a 2-point victory. A little sketchy there through most of the game, actually. And yeah, but it is a win. Being at home, it should have probably been a little bit bigger of a win. We just kind of seemed like we were coasting through it. Could never really pull away. We'd go on a little run, then they'd hit some threes, and they just kind of hung with us. Gave us that little scare there, for us to only win by 2. We gave up a lot of open threes to them, and they knocked down a lot of tough shots as well. That's not necessarily, or not usually, I should say, a good combination when teams are getting open looks and knocking them down, plus they're knocking down tough shots. But we did prevail from a pretty top-heavy but balanced scoring. We were led by Justin Jackson with 20, another 20-point game for Justin. 6 rebounds for him, pretty nice. 3 for 9 from the three-point line. Joel Berry also 19 points, 5 for 9 from the three-point line, 3 assists. And then Isaiah Hicks also 18 points, 8 rebounds. And then Kennedy Meeks rounded out double-digit scorers with 10 points, only 5 rebounds for him. 3 blocks, though, pretty nice. And then only, 11 points off the bench for us. Luke May led the way off the bench. In only 7 minutes, had 7 points. And then Tony Bradley, 2 points, 4 rebounds, and Nate Britt, 2 points off the bench with 4 assists as well, so some nice minutes there. But yeah, balance there at the top, but definitely a little top-heavy. We'd like to have a lot more off the bench. And, of course, if Theo keeps coming off the bench when he gets back healthy, that will solve that. But this was the first game Theo missed. And yeah, we just never really seemed to get in a rhythm against Pittsburgh. And they were sitting in a zone, which we're going to see a lot more of, I think, as we go forward. Unless a team is just committed and, traditionally a man-to-man team, I think teams are going to throw zone at us. Let's see, Virginia will probably man up with us because I think they do that just about anybody. But, again, they like to pack it in, so we could see some zone there. Duke may play some man-to-man against us, but I could easily see them going zone. And then, I think just about anybody else. I was going to quick look at the schedule here, who we got left here. State will probably play some zone. I think Louisville will drop out of their press into some zone. And that's all we got is repeat of teams we've seen or those teams. So we got to be able to shoot. We shot 9 for 24 from the three-point line here, but we can't also fall in love with the three-point shot. We have to get to the free throw line. We have to knock down free throws, but also just get it into those big guys. We got to get Kennedy, Isaiah, Tony, even Luke, some touches inside, whether they shoot it or not, just to open up the open three-point shots. We can't just come down and pass around the perimeter and then jack up a 3. That's not going to work for us. But just no real big runs against Pittsburgh. We'd get on a little run. They'd hit a couple threes, be right back into it. We'd get it up to 8-12. I don't know what the largest lead was, and then they'd come down, we're up by 8 and they hit a couple of threes. It's right back to a 2-point game, or 12 and hit a couple of threes. It's back to 4. And yeah, they just hung around. Got to give them some credit. They did play well against Duke, who they played right after us, and it was the Coach K return on Saturday. They hung with them and played them pretty tough. So I guess that gives us a little credence that they are playing well and looking better than the 1-9 team in the ACC that they are. But definitely someone that we need to take care of next time we play in Pittsburgh in a few weeks. Let's see, the end of February. So someone we need to be aware of and take care of next time. And then we had the Notre Dame game, which was a weird one, postponed. I'm sure you know this already, but postponed from Saturday evening to Sunday noon. I think it was a 1 o'clock tip Eastern time on ESPN News, because we went from Chapel Hill to Greensboro because of the water shortage or main water break in Chapel Hill, and everybody was out of water and couldn't be played there. So in Greensboro, great turnout from Tar Heel Nation in Greensboro. And Isaiah Hicks even said in the post game, it felt just like a home game. It wasn't like we were on a neutral court or anything like that. Felt just like a home game, besides the fact they can't go right back to their rooms after the game. They had to travel home. But yeah, kind of interesting. But we're 2-0 this year in games that are moved back a day. We of course beat NC State by 51. This one was a little bit closer. Ended up being a 7-point win, 83-76 over Notre Dame. We were kind of on cruise control early. We got up, had 8 to, I don't know what it got up to again, but double-digit lead for even a lot of it. I think it was an 8-point game at half. But both games this week, the Pittsburgh game and the Notre Dame game, we got outscored in the second half. Notre Dame outscored us just by 1, 42-41. Pittsburgh outscored us by 4, 42-38 in the second half. So not really a trend we want to continue. But yeah, Notre Dame, we seemed to kind of have control of it, but not blowing them out, and just kind of kept a double-digit lead. And then in the early to middle of the second half, fouls just went rampant. Let's see, it was looking 43 fouls called, not a crazy amount, but it just seemed like in that stretch there was just a lot of fouls, and most of them on us, and allowed them to come back a little bit. Let's see, I don't remember either how close the game got. I don't think they ever took the lead. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong there with a comment, or just shout at me something, I don't know. But I don't think they ever took the lead, but they got it down. Gave us a little scare there towards the end, but we did prevail. Kennedy Meeks ended up fouling out with like 4.5 minutes left. Let's see, Kenny Williams ended up with 4, and then we got 3 other guys with 3. So when you look at the end of the game, it doesn't look horrible, but again, it was just that stretch in there. We had so many fouls, and it's like, who can we throw out there? What can we do to allow them to just not call so many fouls? I don't know, it was kind of strange. They only shot 20 free throws, but they did hit 17 of them. We actually shot 28, so 8 more than them, but we only made 17 as well, so not necessarily the percentage we want. But in this game, even more balance than we had in the Pittsburgh game. I said we had balance in Pittsburgh, but it was a lot of top-heavy balance. 4 starters had really good numbers. In this one, all 5 starters in double figures, plus Tony Bradley off the bench in double figures. So led by Justin Jackson again, only 16 this time, but 16 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. And then Isaiah Hicks, 14 points, 7 rebounds. Joel Berry, 12 points, 7 assists, but did have 4 turnovers as well. He had 3 steals and 5 rebounds as well. Tony Bradley off the bench next with 12 points, 5 rebounds, 3 blocks as well. And then Kenny Williams and Kennedy Meeks both had 11 points. Kennedy had 8 rebounds. Kenny Williams, 3 rebounds, 3 assists as well. And then we did have Luke May again, coming in 6 points and 9 minutes off the bench. A nice little, I think, chunk there. Obviously, they are much shorter, play a smaller lineup, so that's why Tony was more effective, why he got more minutes there. It would have let Kennedy to be a little bit more effective, get a little more touches and shots. Only shot 6 times, was 4 for 6 shooting. And even Isaiah was 6 for 10 shooting. Could have pounded, but again, there's those foul troubles in the second half. But and we only shot 6 for 17 from the 3-point line, so it's not like we were killing it from the outside either. But took care of business, got 2 wins, got back in that winning. I guess can't call it a streak yet, but at least mentality of winning those games and getting multiple in a row. Now, as we talked about last podcast and in a few other ones, how tough our last run or our final run here in the ACC is going to be. Before we get into upcoming games, obviously we know what game is coming up, but just the standings here as we come down the stretch. We are in the sole possession of first place in the ACC at 9-2. 3 lost teams. Florida State is 8-3. Louisville and Virginia both 7-3. So right behind us there with our tough games coming up. Syracuse 7-4. Duke 6-4. And then Notre Dame dropped to 6-5. Virginia Tech and Miami both 5-5 to finish out the kind of top half and the 500 and above teams. Wake Forest and Georgia Tech 5-6. So Georgia Tech slipping down to more where we thought they'd be. Clemson 3-7. North Carolina State 3-8. BC at 2-9, and of course Pittsburgh at 1-9. So we still got a lot of work to do. We're only 1 game ahead of Florida State, Louisville, Virginia. Only 2 games ahead of Syracuse and Duke. That could switch really quickly if we, lose a couple. Obviously, we got Duke coming up this week. We could, we lose that one. We got 3 losses, and they only got 4. We're only 1 game ahead of Duke, and not to mention Florida State, Louisville, Virginia there. So yeah, definitely some work to do. Of course, we know the big game this week. It is Duke week this week. ESPN has been showing the hype commercials or hype videos, whatever you want to say, for almost a week already, and the game's not even until this coming Thursday as I record this on Monday. But we play at Durham on Thursday. It's the 9th, and it is a 8 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN. And then after that we go, I think I said this last podcast, but anyway, we play at North Carolina State. Then we got Virginia and Louisville at home, at Pittsburgh at a noon tip, then at Virginia, and then ending with Duke. So, I mean, if we split with Duke and split with Virginia, we already got 4 losses in the ACC. That I don't think guarantees us a win. I think if we had 4 losses, I think we'd at least be tied, be co-champions or champions of the regular season, but I don't think that guarantees us an outright ACC championship in the regular season. Nor does that necessarily guarantee us, the 1 seed or a 1 seed going into the NCAA tournament. So we definitely have some business to take care of. Looking at this Duke game, because I will podcast again before NC State next week, as there's almost a week. It goes Thursday to Wednesday between Duke and North Carolina State. So we're going to have a weekend here without a game, which will be a little strange. It's going to feel like a long time in between games, but probably good for our health. Really, I don't know, health. We only have Theo out with injury stuff, and people said, he was dressed for the Notre Dame game. There were reports he warmed up. He looked really good. If it was a tournament game, Sweet 16 game or something like that, he probably could have and would have played. So he should be good to go by Duke, as I thought he would be anyway before that. But if something happens in the Duke game, we have a lot of time to get somebody back again before that NC State game. But 8 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN against Duke. I don't know who's calling the game yet. I'm guessing it'll be Jay Billis and whoever he usually does the game with. But Duke just got Coach K back this weekend. He came back from the back surgery, had been out a month. I think it was exact to the day when they said he would be out like 4 weeks or whatever. That was the 4 weeks day right then. Or maybe it was when they announced it. I'm not even sure. But I mean, they had a tough one against Pitt. It wasn't like they were super motivated. I watched a little bit of it or caught a little bit of it. And one of the announcers was saying, I think they're playing too hard or trying too hard because K's back today and they want to, play so well or whatever. But I mean, obviously Pitt's playing pretty well. They did get the win. They pulled out, I don't know what was, but they pulled away a little bit. I didn't watch all that game. If it was close, I probably would have been watching it. But, so K's obviously back for this one. It's in Durham, in Cameron, whatever you want to say, in the Hansborough Indoor Stadium. And, if you watch the North Carolina game, I think it was the Notre Dame one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. You had Dookie V going off for like 5 minutes about Duke alone and how he thinks they're going to go on this run and all this. So, all the national guys are going to expect them to kind of get back on track here with K back in the coach's seat. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't heard anything if they're allowed back in into the locker rooms or allowed to wear Duke apparel yet. Haven't got any reports about that, and any notifications on my phone from ESPN saying Duke or that Coach K has allowed him back in the locker room or anything. But I'm sure at some point we'll get something like that, and probably right before our game, probably like Wednesday. Like, oh, they can go back in the locker room. They can wear Duke shirts again, because that's a headline with ESPN. But yeah, little tangent there, but Duke EV going off about Duke, of course. And then, of course, he has to qualify it by saying, well, if you talk about Duke, then North Carolina fans say you talk about them too much. And if you talk about North Carolina, Duke fans, but I don't ever see Duke fans criticizing Duke EV. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't follow enough Duke fans or have enough friends that are Duke fans, but never hear or see them saying, hey, Duke EV, be quiet about North Carolina. We're Duke. Or I don't know. He just does it during our games. I think he's kind of a troll, and he needs to retire. But that's my feelings. You can comment below if you think or hit me up on Twitter if you think I'm wrong about that. But I feel like everybody is kind of saying that lately, that he just needs to retire. So yeah, I don't know. Matching up with Duke, it's kind of hard because they have been injured a lot this year. I'm not trying to take away. I know, I was talking about our health and stuff, but there is a lot to them not being healthy. They haven't had anybody. Giles finally had an alley-oop dunk and had to make like SportsCenter top 10 because he finally got above the rim or something. But they can give us some matchup problems, but I also just don't see. I don't know. Again, it comes down to us guarding the 3-point line. If we can keep Grayson Allen, Luke Kennard, and even Matt Jones, for that matter, off the 3-point line and not making a ton, and then if fouls are consistent, I think we'll be kicked. I think we're deeper. Obviously Grayson is really aggressive going to the rim. Jason Tatum can be a kind of a matchup problem, but I think he's playing the 4. Not even though, because they start Emile Jefferson and Harry Giles. So Justin Jackson matches up with Tatum, and Tatum can probably post him up a little bit, but I don't think that's a huge mismatch there for them. And he's got to guard Justin Jackson at the other end. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how fouls are called. Obviously, it's in Duke. We know they're going to get some home calls. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to think of other matchups. Obviously, Joel Berry, I think, has the advantage because he's actually a point guard, and Duke doesn't have a point guard. That's been their issue. If we can pressure them, get some turnovers, if we can knock down a couple of threes, and if nobody's in foul trouble, or not everybody's in the foul trouble or something like that, I think we're okay. And it's at Duke. It's the biggest game of the regular season when we play Duke, and it's a huge rivalry game. I get that. And we've seen it where Duke's number 1, we're not ranked, whatever, and we go in and beat them. Or, I don't know if they've been out of the rankings, but they're down in the rankings and we're having a better year, and they come and beat us and stuff. I mean, you never know with these games. But as far as matchups goes, on paper, I like our chances. I like where we're going. I'm not going to guarantee a win. I'm not going to predict anything on this game. If you want to, you can go back to the predictions podcast, and I didn't go game through game, but you can at least see how close I am to where, how many losses I thought we'd have and stuff like that. But I'm not going to predict anything. You can call me out if you want to on that. But I like that we're going into Duke. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people saying that I'm stressed. It's Duke week, and how to handle. I don't know. I look forward to it. It's what you watch college basketball for. And if we lose, it's not the end of the world. Maybe that's because I don't live in North Carolina around there to get razzed. But I know enough Duke fans that my phone, if we lose, whether it be a last second thing or get blown out, like, I'm going to hear about it. Maybe not to the extent that someone lives in North Carolina is going to, but I will hear about it. And obviously I'll be disappointed. It's not like I don't care, but we get them at home, for Isaiah and Kennedy, and I don't know who else is a senior, Nate Britt and Stillman White, all those guys is senior day. And again, on paper, I like how we match up. I like how we look against them. We might need a little bit more from Kenny Williams to knock down a couple shots and keep people honest, but I like where we're going with it. I don't want to drag on without giving a prediction or saying anything just out there about it. So I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to check, make sure there's no comments because I have been doing these live lately. Make sure I didn't have anything else in my notes. But yeah, that's about all I got for you this week. If you want to be a guest on the show, I've had a couple people now let me know that they want to come on the show. As long as we can get it to work, I'm pretty open to whether you're a Duke fan or a Carolina fan or another ACC fan, getting into and talking hoops. And as long as you're not crazy, we don't need anything crazy on here. But yeah, if you want to be on the show, hit me up. All the links to get a hold of me will be in the description. If you'd like to help me out with social media, I've thrown this out there before too. If you want to help with social media for the show and try to get it out to more people, I'm definitely open to that. Hit me up for that. But yeah, I just appreciate you listening, watching, however you're taking it in. And also I appreciate if you are subscribed so that you get this. I don't release it on the same day every day like you're supposed to, the same day every week, because of the game schedule, and also my schedule can be kind of crazy sometimes. But subscribe wherever you take the podcast in, so that that you're notified when something goes live and you don't miss anything. And like I said at the beginning, if you share this out to friends, family, other Tar Heel fans that share it on Twitter, whatever, I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, I'm always open to talk Tar Heel basketball with anybody, anytime. So connect with me on social media wherever you're at, and yeah, I've said that enough. That's all I got, guys. Until I talk to you again next week. Go Heels.